We're here with Dr. Jacob Kaufman. He's going to tell us a little bit about the clear aligner stuff he's got going.
Perfect. Thanks for having me over, Clark. I've been working with this Graphy material lately that I've really been enjoying. There's a few parts to it that I think sets it apart from the rest of the stuff on the market, and I think it's something that my patients and prospective patients should know is available to them. There's a few things that I really wanted to highlight. The first thing is that it moves your teeth better than anything else on the market right now. The reason being is that one is it's 3D printed, and so when you have kind of the old school style of trays, they're suctioned down, they're thermoplastic, and when that happens, the tray has thin spots and thicker spots. And what that means is the pressure is not evenly distributed on your teeth, and their teeth don't move as well. The other thing that it has is a shape memory. So we can put these trays in hot water here, and they become flexible. So after they've warmed up a little bit, they bend, they stretch. When you put them in your mouth, they'll stretch around your teeth, and at your body's natural temperature, they will return to their shape. So this is important for two reasons. The first is that it's comfortable. You don't have that uncomfortable snap when you put them in your mouth. The second is the forces that it's putting on your teeth, how it's moving them, is consistent. Every time it heats up, it resets, and it's going to put that same light but effective force on your teeth. If you're using a thermoplastic, a traditional version of this initial force is really strong, and then it wears out over time, and by the time you're done, it's not applying an appropriate amount of force. So this is consistent. It's going to move your teeth a little bit faster, and it's going to be more uniform, so we're going to expect better results.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, the thing that I really like about it is, like you said, that initial visit, right? When you're trying to put the traditional clear aligner trays in, it's uncomfortable trying to get it in over crooked teeth. And I actually tried a set of these, right? On my own teeth. So made a mold for me and or digital scan, and then tried them in, and heating them up, it's super comfortable. So that's pretty cool. What about the buttons? You know, talk a little bit about the buttons that sometimes get put on these clear aligners.
Yeah, so sometimes we need to apply rubber bands to our teeth to help move our teeth in different directions, and so we can actually print little buttons on these clear aligners to help move the teeth and correct some of our skeletal and tooth position problems in a way that used to only be able to be done with traditional braces, brackets, and wires. So because we can shape these however we want, we can add little buttons here and use clear aligners in ways that weren't possible, 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, that's awesome. What would you say, what are the improvements that this shows over like Invisalign when it first came out 20 years ago or so?
You're able to move the teeth further. Studies show with each tray. So, instead of 10 trays with traditional aligners, you might be able to do the same movement in 6 or 7 trays. They also are going to be more cleansable. So if you put a traditional tray in boiling water and you want to disinfect them, you're wearing these trays all day, they get bacteria on them. If you put a traditional tray in boiling water, it's going to deform, and you're not going to be able to use it. But you can put these in boiling water, really sanitize them in an effective way, and it's going to just reset and continue with that strong force that we like to see.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't think about that. But
yeah, you
think you put the traditional ones in boiling water, and you've got a pile of melted plastic.
Yeah, not with these guys. So it's a pretty cool product. My patients that are using them, I've been getting great feedback. They're comfortable, they're easy to use, and the results have been very predictable and good to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so how are these made differently than the older style of clear aligners?
Yeah, so these trays, we actually print them in-house. So when we take a digital copy of your teeth, we will design how we want your teeth to move in a computer, and then we 3D print them in-house. So what I like about that is we have a lot of control over the quality of it. If we need to, say you're a really big grinder and you've been clenching and grinding through your trays, traditionally you just need to go through more trays, but we can actually make this a little bit thicker if we need to for your application. And then once we've printed it, we process and cure it, and we're able to get the trays to you usually a little bit faster. Usually how this works is I would take a scan, I'd send it into a company, they would design it. We'd decide over time that it was a good design, then I have to wait for them to fabricate it a few weeks where, as soon as we're ready to go, we can pull the trigger and get started very quickly. I've been very excited about it. I think it's going to be a kind of the future, right? The thermoplastics, the way they've been doing it for 30 years since they have invented these, and this has been the first real, novel change in the fabrication of trays. And there's several resins that you can use to make these trays, but the flexible graphy material I find has been the best and has been a good addition to our practice.
Yeah, I know they're first to market and probably ahead of the competition a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing that I think is kind of cool about these is, traditionally, they would 3D print a bunch of models, right? Mm-hmm. Tons of plastic, and then they would, like you said, heat up that plastic and make a mold over the top of that, and then that would have to be hand trimmed, which not only takes a lot of time, but makes it more expensive, and it's a lot of waste. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are very cool. How does this compare to the traditional clear aligners as far as payment options for patients?
Yeah, the cool thing about these trays are that we make them entirely in-house. So the design process is in-house, the fabrication process is in-house. And so it gives us a lot more control over that process. And because of that, we're able to work with patients a little bit better. We don't have this huge lab bill that we have to pay as soon as we start the case that we need the patient to kind of front so we can get the process starting. So we have a lot more flexibility in breaking down the costs into payment plans, bite-sized chunks that are a lot easier to manage. I know it's tough out there these days, and being able to have that flexibility for patients is really key, and we just want to be able to help them find ways to get to the care that they're looking to have.
Yeah, I think for a lot of us, right, it's the society we're in. If we can break it down into monthly payments or some other option, it makes it a lot more affordable.
Yeah, I've been finding that's the case, and I think a lot of patients would like to have this service, but when they look at a $4,000 or $5,000 down payment on starting this process, it's just difficult or out of reach. So we try to break it down into ways that can make it more manageable and help them accomplish their dental goals.
Yeah, that's awesome. Looking at these trays, we talked about how you can heat them up a little bit and then they get really flexible.
Yeah.
Are there any other advantages to that over just the rigid plastic trays?
Yeah, so these trays here, they because they're 3D printed and they're not suction down onto the model, we can print them to the exact measurements of your teeth. So if we were to, usually we would take a stone model or a plastic model of your teeth, and they would do a suck down of plastic over the top. And the downside of that is the little grooves, crevices along the gum line, the undercuts, the plastic doesn't get down there very well. And because of that, if the plastic is not touching your tooth, it's not moving your tooth. So
yeah, that makes sense.
With these, because we can print them and make them exact to the dimensions of your teeth, we can put pressure all the way across your teeth. So smaller teeth that are tough to move, teeth with big undercuts or grooves, we're able to put a lot more efficient pressure on your teeth and move them more predictably. Whereas with a suck down material, say your lower front teeth or your little laterals on top, there's not a lot of surface area, and if you're not touching, a third of the tooth, those teeth sometimes don't move like we want them to.
Yeah, they might move, but not where we want them to, right?
Yeah, so the goal is to reduce the number of revisions. So we want to make this process as predictable as possible, and nobody wants to get to the end of their treatment and hear, oh, we're going to have to rescan and start over again. And so by using material like this, we can reduce the likelihood of that happening.
Ah, that's great.
So one thing you'll find with traditional trays is that patients often have to have a lot of the tooth-covered little fillings, the buttons placed on their teeth to help move them. The reason being is that because of some of the limitations of the material, they need to add surface area to really push and move those teeth in a certain direction.
Almost like a little handle.
Like a little handle, yeah. It's going to help that turn, give it a little bit more leverage. But the benefit of what we're using with the Graphy material is that because it adapts to teeth better, it's going to be thicker. We can plan the thickness around the teeth to apply more pressure. We can more efficiently move the teeth without adding buttons. And so what that means for the patient is fewer buttons and more predictable tooth movement. There's been some studies that have been coming out where they've been able to erupt laterals. They've been able to make teeth move without any buttons at all. So You know, a couple of the researchers I was talking to when we went and had an educational day with the Graphy manufacturers thought that they would get to a point soon where we wouldn't have any buttons at all on their products.
Oh, that's awesome. I know patients aren't a fan of having a button on every tooth, so
yeah,
get away from that. The more you can get away from that, the better.
Definitely. You know, it's an opportunity for stain to show on that tooth. It's a long process getting 10 little mini fillings on your teeth and then polishing them off is not fun. You know, I think if we can reduce the number of buttons, it's just going to make the patient experience a little bit better.